Phasewheel In Brief.
Hi, welcome to the Phasewheel In Brief. I'm Kiley Hylton, and I'm joined today by Caitlin Morin. Caitlin, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like you're going to be very excited about today's topic. So do you want to hop on into it?
I do. Does this involve my triplets? Is that why?
It does involve one of your triplets. Today, we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite invisible piece of code, schemas, and then also going into crawlers and structured data and how all this connects back to GEO. So, Caitlin, I think we need to set the stage first on what is a schema.
So the way that I define schemas are, you probably heard me say some client calls. It's when you walk into a grocery store and you see those like things on the aisles that say what is in the aisle, that's what a schema is. So a schema is a piece of code that goes in your website. It's JSON. It's totally hidden to the public eye. It goes in the back end. The chances of the schema breaking your site are, I would say, 0. So it's very safe to go ahead and add your schemas. So it's a piece of code that just tells LLMs, AI crawlers, what is where and what's on your site, what it is, and why it matters. So you don't want to the biggest mistake I see with schemas is almost keyword stuffing. Like you put too much garbage in there, and you should just put what the AI crawler needs to know to find what it needs to find, and then the content should be the stuffing. So quick and easy, what's down this aisle, what exists here, how do I find it?
So what are a few examples of different schema types, I would say, or aisle types, if we're continuing down that analogy way?
The biggest ones that are most important are organizational schemas and website schemas. So those both tell LLMs who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. So they say what kind of company you are, what kind of audience you're targeting, your marketing towards, and what you offer. And if those things aren't on the website, then LLMs can't understand that in a way that's clean, and they're going to be less likely to cite you. I think that's the important part here. If you don't have schemas, LLMs are less likely to cite you because they don't know where to find information and can't read your site as easily.
Okay. And not to get off this topic super quick, but what's the difference between a schema and a robot.txt file?
So a robot.txt file kind of acts like a little gateway that says you're allowed in, you're not allowed in, and it says explicitly what robots, what crawlers are allowed on your site, which ones are not. So we used to block all the robots because we're robots bad, it's spam, whatever. And now we want to allow those robots. There is a way you can allow every single robot, or you can explicitly allow the bots we want to crawl it. So those Claudes, Perplexity, all those bots, you can do either. Best practice is to explicitly allow those bots. It's really easy to get. Just go to your website, /robots.txt. It'll pull it up. Copy and paste that into your LLM of choice. We use Claude, and make it create an optimized file, and then put it back in there. It takes 5 seconds. You need to have it. And then schemas exist once the robots are already on your site. So it's gateway versus Usher almost.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the door has a passcode, kind of like an office building might, where you have to scan your pass to get in. And as long as your pass is on the list, you're allowed to go in. And then once you're in, you might see a directory of floors or aisles you could go to.
Exactly. The way that you just phrased it made me think of a speakeasy. And if I would think of the robot.txt file as the person from the speakeasy is you can come in, you can't come in. And then the schemas are this is a bad analogy. The schemas are the things that show you where to actually go once you get in there.
Gotcha.
That's not a good analogy. I won't use that again. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that's fine. What's the easiest way? You just gave a great example of how to do the TXT file. What's an easy way to look at schemas if you're a company? Is there an easy way? I should ask.
There is a way. I would, if I was going to hire somebody for anything involving GEO, and I had a very small budget, this is one thing I would hire someone to do is schemas. It's really hard to understand what you need and what you don't need, what needs to go where, what's worth adding a schema to and what's not. If hiring someone is out of the question, I would put my website into Claude or an LLM and say, please generate schemas for me. I would also add what your website is hosted on. If it's Shopify, what theme? If it's WordPress, I guess what theme? And give it as much context as it can. But I really wouldn't recommend doing this yourself.
let's say I'm a brand and I just got my website updated. Should I expect that themes should have been part of that website update from the company who built my website? Or is this something that wouldn't be part of a normal website build playlist?
I would ask. But
Okay.
if you are on Shopify, and I think some WordPress themes, I know Shopify automatically generates a lot of schemas for you. So if you're on Shopify, wonderful. I think WP Engine does do some schemas. The way to check that is validator. I use validator.schema.org. You can also use Google Rich Results. There's a way, or if you have an SEO tool like Clearing Frog, SEO, whatever you want, it can crawl it for you and see what schemas are on there. But I would, if I was going to build a new website, I would make sure that's part of the scope of the web dev team. And I would still work with a GEO consultant to make sure, and like an actual human consultant. Like do not use an AI. We saw someone doing AI this week that was just a horrific audit. AI tools cannot audit your website for GEO. Like get a human involved.
Okay. So getting into the Q&A portion, even though I have been asking you questions this whole time, but which schemas actually matter when we're talking about AI citations versus are there any that we can skip?
This is super interesting. I will say overall, like schema is only good as a content. So if you do not have a page with rich content on it, then I would not prioritize adding schemas to it. That being said, the schemas that you need are dependent on what you sell. So if you're like a D2C brand, you need a product offer schema. If you aren't, you need a service schema. You always need, the ones you do always need are organization or local business or both, article or blog posting if you have blog postings, FAQ page on every single page. Okay, so on every single page, FAQ, breadcrumb, and organizational or website schemas are the three I would have on every single page, no matter what's going on. And then the other ones I would do, there's so many for different like verticals, but product offer, article blog posting, FAQ, we already said. There's just like the one side. Oh, and then make sure
Aggregated rating.
Aggregated rating if you have reviews. If you don't, there's no point. But yeah, if your review is super, super important. Otherwise, it doesn't know how well you're doing and it wants that credibility. And then I saw earlier this week, someone had their author for their blog posting set as their company name instead of an actual human being. If it can be a person, great. And then if you happy, we have a client that's an HVAC, not HVAC, like we have a client that's a landscaping Christmas company, and they have different technicians. We add them as person schemas. You have someone in your company that's a notable person that would add credibility. In this case, people have certifications. I would add a person schema as well. But it's really dependent on what kind of company you have, but always breadcrumb, organization, or web page, or both, and FAQ, no matter what.
Okay. So to have an FAQ schema, do I need to have FAQs on that web page?
No.
Okay.
No. You can actually just like take the most common FAQs that you see. I would go into Search Console and see what your highest queries are, and then have the FAQ schema generated off of that. So you can actually add FAQ schemas to every single page. Traditional SEO says do not add these to every page. That is not something that we subscribe to for GEO. So if someone pushes back, I would push back on them pushing back and say, we're doing this for GEO. It does not hurt SEO.
Okay. And then going back to us talking about the crawlers a while ago, you said we used to block all of them. Should we now let them all in, or should we just pick our favorite LLMs to allow in? What's the trade-off on the all or nothing approach?
Let them in. I would say let them in, but I would recommend blocking crawlers from like pages. I don't think that
like a transaction page, like where you might be entering a credit card or you're logging into a patient portal or something like that.
Like a checkout page, I would block it from a checkout page if you can. I would block it from, any kind of PII, patient portals, anything if you do not want that page to surface an LLM search result, block it. That being said, if you're worried about site speed, so this is an issue, there's a crawl delay you could add in. I would not do it. I would improve my site speed. But if I for some reason I'm stuck with a slow site, I would do a crawl delay, give it like 300 milliseconds or something. That's a long time, not that long. But give it like enough time for the site to load and then have the crawl if you're super worried about it. But instead, I would literally just add Cloudflare, increase my site speed, fix it that way. That being said, a lot of people really hung up on llms.txt files. You can find that if you have one by going to your domain, llms.txt and it'll pull it up. It's like a giant schema. Basically, it's like a Franken schema. You just kind of like smash all your schemas into one file. People think it's really important. There was a recent study by, I always mess this up, it's Ahrefs. By Ahrefs that said only 10% of the sites llm.txt files are ever crawled. So add it if you want. If it brings you joy, sparks joy, add it. I don't think it's that important. I would definitely prioritize schemas, robot.txt files, and content.
Awesome. Yeah, so robot.txt over llms.txt. Nice to have, but not a must. How can a company or brand test this to see what models can read the site? Is it just truly looking at their TXT files? Is there somewhere else they need to go?
If you have just some way to look at your server logs, it's the easiest way, like through Cloudflare or like a domain thing. The TXT file, so the .txt file tells you if bots are allowed to crawl your site, not if they're actually doing it. But that's a good way to do it. And then the other way is I think a lot of SEO, like Screaming Frog and SEO tools, if you have one, will also allow that. Also, just go into your GA and see if there's traffic. Like that's a pretty simple way too. But I would start with your raw.txt file, and then if you have a server access, great. And then if you don't, use an SEO tool. But do know that like a lot of SEO tools will scrape some stuff out. But if it's allowed to and your content's good enough, it's going to crawl it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, anything else on schemas and crawlers and structured data?
I think the biggest thing is just prioritizing it, even if bots are allowed to crawl your site and your content is garbage, or if your site structure is not complete, they're not going to do it. So first step, allow it. Second step, encourage it through those schemas, through that structured content. We use Mirror for this. Like there's a lot of different ways to make sure that you're both allowing it and encouraging it, and those are equally as important. Also the robots.txt file, like we said before, with other things, takes about 24 hours to update, so do not freak out. And then if you want to be able to look at bot traffic and you don't have a way, we use Cloudflare Worker. It's free to sign up. It's super easy. Switch your DNS over. That's what I would do if I was a brand that couldn't look at my server-side logs and want to. And then once again, like I would really hire someone to do your schemas. It can take 2 hours of the consultant's time. It's going to be worth it. That's not something I would half-ass. Can I say that?
Okay.
I just did. Sorry, everybody.
Okay. Well, if that's all we have today, that's all we have. If there's any questions or you would like to work with us, you can reach out to us at hello@phasewheel.com. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Phasewheel in Brief.